Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the Sikh Helpline Show. Hello everybody, my name is Sadnam Singh and today we have two guests with us. Gyani Sukha Singh Ji, Waheguru Ji Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh, and Jatinder Kaur Ji, Waheguru Ji Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you for being on the show with us today. You've travelled a very long way to be here today, haven't you?
That's right.
You mind telling our viewers where you're from?
Okay. Well, I'm from Brisbane, Australia.
Wow.
Yes.
We just about got you on time on the flight, didn't we?
That's right.
So Gyani Ji, please introduce your guest.
The Sikh Helpline been running in UK for quite a number of years.
Yes.
And I'm just going to go back into it for the Sikh Helpline in Australia.
Yeah.
So I got a call from Joshanpreet Singh,
Right.
one of the police officer in Australia.
Okay.
So he felt that how important is the Sikh Helpline. He felt that it's something really, really important, and he said that a lot of organization helping a lot of people out there.
Yes.
There's a lot of gurukars where people go down, have langar, listen to part, and have a little bit of spiritual awakening kind of thing.
Right.
He said what he feel that is missing is individual people having problems at home, having issues at home. They don't know who to turn to, who to talk to. You know? So he felt the helpline is a very good project, and he said, I want to start something in Australia. You know?
Right.
I said, look, if you start anything in Australia, we'll give you our full support, whatever you need. You know?
Okay.
But you have to be independent in one sense. You know?
So they run the Sikh Helpline Australia.
Sikh Helpline Australia.
But you've provided all the material.
All the material at the beginning. You know?
Wow.
So practically, you want to keep the name Sikh Helpline. I say, go ahead, keep it Sikh Helpline. Because for me, the word Sikh Helpline is not important. What is important is the support the people get.
Wow.
The help the people get, that is more important. I know sometimes people say, look, you need to keep your trade name, you need to keep your business name.
Yeah.
I said, this is not a business, this is
Yeah.
a seva.
Yeah.
I say, for me, whether you can use Sikh Helpline, whatever name you want, as long as you're helping and supporting people,
Yeah.
that is more valuable than anything else. So they kept the name Sikh Helpline, and then we've given them all our policies, the procedures. In fact, we got our programmer
Right.
to program their database.
Just like yours.
Like similar to us, so that they can log in and all the stuff. That means all the research, all the sort of the good and bad bits we have learned through our experience.
You've just given them the final project.
Final project.
The perfect one without any mishaps.
Yeah, and then from there, I think that they did quite well. I was looking on the Facebook and
Yeah.
so on. And I think Jatinder joined them, and if you want to
Yeah, I was gonna
sort
come
of
over to
express it
yourself.
further,
No worries.
how far have you gone and what is happening
So
in Australia?
Sikh Helpline Australia has been running for about 2 years.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so my role is actually I'm on the board of advisors.
Okay.
And professionally I'm a social worker, so I actually do a lot of the work that Sikh Helpline is meant to be providing.
Perfect.
So when I joined probably about 18 months ago, they were pretty much in the early sort of startup phase. Most of our team is based in Sydney.
Okay.
So Joshanpreet Singh is like our organisation team. We have 4 members on our board, and our team consists of, we have police officers, we have lawyers, we have accountants, we have various other sort of, students as well who are studying in various different fields. In the sort of establishment phase, it was really important for us to sort of look at our infrastructure, look at our training, look at our policies and procedures.
Yes.
Australia is a very big country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the distance between the states, the different cities is a lot. I live in Brisbane. Brisbane is about 13-hour drive from Sydney,
Wow.
1-hour flight.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, and then Sydney, and then Melbourne is a 2-hour flight. So as you can imagine,
That'll be 26 hours driving then.
Well, that's right. No, I tend to fly. So yeah.
Okay.
But most of our Sikh population actually lives and resides in 2 major cities, Sydney and Melbourne. So we estimate probably across Australia about 100,000 Sikhs in our last sort of census count. That's an approximate. And probably about easily 30 to 40,000 in Sydney and Melbourne. So yeah, and about 10,000 in Brisbane. So yeah.
Okay.
So looking at that, then the need and the demand would be quite high.
So that I was going to get to that in terms of
Yeah.
the needs and demand. I mean, we face a lot of things here, which I'm not too sure au fait with what
Yeah, yeah.
happens in Australia, which I'm sure you're going to come to tell me. But we have bullying, harassment, grooming, sexual grooming, alcohol abuse,
drugs.
domestic violence, drugs, racial abuse, caste issues.
Yeah.
What's Australia got then, with the issues with the Sikhs there?
It's a little bit different to the UK. I think with the UK, I mean, I was born in the UK, so
Right.
I think with the UK, you've got, you're into your third, fourth generation.
Yes.
So that adds a whole different level of complexity when you look at the type of social issues that Apne or the Asian community is going to face. In Australia, most of the Sikh population are probably first generation to second.
Wow.
So to give an example, most people have migrated probably in the 1990s, very few in the 80s or 70s. We saw a huge influx come through the Indian international student visa migration pathway from about 2007, 2008. So that where our population grew triple-fold.
Right.
So that that was a huge expansion because of the visa sort of flexibility, where we saw a lot of student migrants come from Punjab to Australia. So with that type of issues, what we saw was initially a lot of the immigration support, initial orientation support. A lot of Apne migrants came from Punjab, didn't know the laws, expectations, language barriers, employer issues, whether they can work, so exploitation,
So on a student visa in Australia, I mean, if they got a student visa here, they're allowed to work 20 hours. Did they have that there? Okay.
It's the same. But as you can imagine, if they've taken loans, they've sold land, they have to pay off their debts.
So it's more than 20 hours. So it's the illegal side to it.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's, but then what that means, they're open to exploitation as well. And then we also saw a huge spike in, I guess, assault sort of related cases, domestic violence cases. So typically now, we, probably most of 2016, our key focus areas have been, unfortunately, domestic violence has been quite high. So that's been a very large focus. Second area has been around immigration, social welfare sort of support, where newly arrived migrants are struggling with housing, education, employment, mental health sort of issues. And our third category would be around bullying or racial discrimination type of issues.
And where would these take place? Would this be in school, homes, workplace?
Okay, so typically with the domestic violence stuff, we have seen a lot more of those cases with newly arrived and newly married couples.
Right, okay.
Usually typically an arranged marriage sort of setting, and there's lots of sort of stress. So there's financial stress, there's stress of family expectations, stress of new marriage, new couple, different laws. And if you think about if they come from India and the typical Indian patriarchal sort of views that they might have, they may not be consistent with the Australian laws.
Right, okay.
This one, is it majority people from India, or those people also staying from there?
Probably the largest cohort that we see who contact Sikh Helpline are newly arrived.
Right.
We haven't yet, we're trying to now reach into the more established migrant community, but because they've been living there for 10, 15 years, they understand the law, they understand the system. That doesn't mean that they don't have issues.
Yeah, they still have issues.
There's probably a lot more shame in wanting to access help.
All right,
Yeah, so...
That's everywhere, even here.
Yeah.
But that comes with the culture, doesn't it?
Yeah. So there's a lot of stigma.
Yeah.
So even trying to do, so a lot of my work last year was around education and awareness. So unfortunately, we had 2 women, Punjabi women, who were murdered and killed in a domestic violence incident in March last year. So because of that, incident, we were able to secure funding from state government to actually run community education workshops in our state, in Queensland. The hardest part of that was that the Gurdwara and the committee and the community, they actually didn't give us permission to talk in the Gurdwara. So we actually had to hire a school. They're scared of all the women, so that you're not allowed to go and hear this. And we actually didn't even have anything to do with domestic violence on our poster. We had said it's emotional well-being workshop, just to help women, because that's what the government wanted us to do after that traumatic incident, because it was a husband who killed his wife and then his mother-in-law as well. And it happened in a
I think I seen that
street.
on the news.
I mean, the most interesting thing here is you said first generation, Sikhs or Punjabis migrating. And it's Queens, you said?
Queensland.
Queensland.
Yeah, that was the state.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there many Gurdwara in there, or is it just a few?
That incident actually was probably second generation. So the wife was actually born in Queensland.
Right.
So,
Okay.
So, but because they're a farming community, there was a lot of shame and stigma. They were very close knit.
Right. So they never sweep under the carpet kind of thing.
They never reached out to anyone. Actually, the police didn't even know the protocol of how to contact anyone in the Gurdwara. No one was there to liaise with them. The hospital staff didn't know. So on behalf of Sikh Helpline, we flew up. We tried to provide that social and community counselling support to that community at that time. And then what we did after that was education workshops with the professionals, as well as try to do it with the community. So we've managed to translate domestic violence workshop flyers and brochures into Punjabi as well as into English. We have delivered those workshops now in various Gurdwaras in various cities. So I've done that in Brisbane, I've done that in Sydney.
So the Gurdwara are allowing you to do that now?
Some of them are, yeah. And then if they don't, we hire a community hall. And then we promote it within the community, within the Gurdwara and the various networks to, hey, come and get some information, word of mouth. So what we've seen now, because of that high profile case, because it was reported in national media, and even international, because it was quite extreme, that those victims are coming forward. You know, those women who have been in abusive relationships or know of a sister or aunt or a daughter. So they're coming forward. So actually probably quite a large number of our calls now are related around domestic violence. So,
so the helpline, like now at the moment you say Australia is quite big.
Yes.
So do you only cover in a certain area at this moment, or are you expanding to?
So that's been the biggest challenge. So in our team, as you can imagine then, we're all volunteers. We all have professional jobs. So, you know, like as you mentioned, Jatinder, he's a police officer. So we've held back in promoting the service because we know we need to have trained volunteers.
So numbers as well, isn't it?
Yes. So if we start to receive too many calls that we can't manage, then that is an issue as well. So it's a kind of so before I came out here, we've ran 2 lots of training workshops now for volunteers in Melbourne and in Sydney. So I do that with Jatinder Singh. So we cover all of our, you know, confidentiality, rules and expectations. We talk about ethics. We talk about how to manage issues. We talk about self-care. So we are really mindful that we want to keep it professional, and we don't want to sort of have a service where you know, our community feels that they are being betrayed or mistreated by any of our workers.
No. Well, thank you for that. I mean, we want to talk a bit more to you about that, but we're just conscious we've got to go to a break. Please stay tuned. We've got a lovely guest from Australia telling us the difficulties, the struggles that are happening all across on the other side of the world, not too far from what's happening here with us. So we'll see you after the break. Please stay tuned. Hi guys, and welcome back to the second part of the show. We're going to move on to another topic in in the area of what's happening in Australia. We spoke about domestic violence. We're going to move on to racial discrimination now, and I'd like to know a little bit more about the racial discrimination that you're, receiving the calls for in Australia to yourselves as Sikh Helpline. But just before you start, I want to give you a little bit about what we have, so if we can find like common grounds. So the racial discrimination we have here is Kaur issues, from the Star case to the Kurban as well. We also, get mistaken for other community members. We get racial slurs being sent to us, which I'm not going to, repeat or say, but I'll let your imagination, run wild with that. We also get stigmatized for being terrorists and, and somewhat discriminated against if we are going into perhaps maybe a job or school or even a community centre or such. So looking at that, these are the kind of things that Gyanji gets for his Sikh Helpline and the calls.
Yeah, in fact, you're talking about this issue.
Yeah.
Recently, we have the Sikh Helpline has joined a third-party reporting centre for the West Midlands Police.
Okay.
Because what the police felt here that they are not getting the report from the local communities.
Okay.
So they have said few places like few gurdwaras, few organization have signed in as a third-party reporting. So that people can come and actually report to us, and we can upload on their system. They got a system where you can report it up, and then they will pick it up. They can report whether you just for their intention or they want to make a report.
Right.
Whichever way. Once we fill up the form and send it off, and then the police officer will come down and talk to them.
Wow.
Because what they felt is, I don't know how in Australia, but what they felt sometimes, like the community don't want to go to the police station. They feel going to the police station is something really serious. So they rather go to a place where they can feel comfortable to talk. So the helpline in UK, what we have done now is we are sort of building a database of all these kind of reports. And then at least in a year we can have a stats and see how many kind of cases we get.
And then we can give out the statistics, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to what we said for yourself, could you elaborate a bit more what kind of calls you get on that or issues?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess personally for me, I've lived in Australia for about 22 years.
Okay.
So in that time, I mean, I was like the first Sikh woman wearing a turban in the university in my state. I was pretty lucky. I think at that time, people were just more curious. So the Australians are quite friendly, laid-back people. They are curious to know, why you're wearing the turban, why you look the way you look, and so it's more about around ignorance and not understanding who the Sikh faith is. With my two boys, they were the only two non-white kids in their primary school.
Wow.
So so growing up in that school, every year, every time they would start a new year, I would go in, we would talk to the whole class, why they're wearing a batka, who are the Sikhs, and, it's not a potato, or just to do that bit of orientation. And
do people actually stop you on the street and ask you why you're wearing this turban?
I do get asked a lot of questions because I do a lot of travelling, and in particular areas where people haven't never seen Sikhs.
Okay.
Taxi drivers, shopkeepers. A lot of people know that men wear a turban.
Yes.
So they find it quite strange that a woman's wearing a turban. And then they get a little bit confused. Are you a Sikh? Or are you a Muslim? Or
they've never said, are you from an African region? They've never said that.
Actually, I have had an African woman come up to me and ask me, where can I buy that? I did, and she was from Kenya, so I thought that was quite funny. Okay, so about the racial type of cases that we are seeing, we're definitely seeing lots of bullying cases.
Right.
Particularly for boys, particularly for those who are wearing a batka, and particularly those who are probably newly arrived, where they might not be as confident in speaking in English.
Is that forcing them to cut their hair?
I think it's kind of half-half.
Right.
So depending on how strict their parents are, whether they're baptised or not baptised, we don't sometimes know. But because I also do lots of grommet camps and kids camps. We have, now that we've started to talk about the bullying issue, we have seen that in that type of forum, most of the time they haven't even told their parents that they've been bullied.
So they're afraid, or
they're afraid, or they've kept it inside, and then they will talk about it. So I've had young boys, whether primary school or sort of early high school, share about, being teased and bullied, and then the teachers not supporting them, or the teachers not being respectful, or...
Is that due to lack of education
Yes.
or awareness, or is
Yeah.
that because they don't respect it themselves?
I think all three.
All three, okay.
So part of that then, when we did our strategic planning sort of meeting and last year, we decided as a team that we will develop some resources that are Australian based.
Right.
So we have commissioned an artist to look at possibly like developing an illustrated book,
Right.
of a young little boy on his first day at school. So talking about the patka and talking about the kakars.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're really keen to now. We've designed it, looked at it. We're in the next phase of hopefully getting it into the print stage.
Please be sure to send us a copy.
You may even have it here. I don't know. So, and it is about, because with that idea was about working with the year ones or kindy, and actually having it as a teacher education resource, that they can help support the young Sikh kids in their school and in their classroom.
Is this been used in local schools? Or?
We're developing it.
Yeah.
So we've got an illustrations done. So we've just in the next phase we've got to do some fundraising to get it printed.
See, the beautiful thing.
Will the school use it?
Yes, the schools have actually come out. So a lot of the schools wherever there's been issues, where we have a positive response from principals and teachers, they have asked, well, are there resources?
Right.
What can we do? So then we've done some brainstorming, thinking about, okay, online is one platform, but having a book, or a nice way that a teacher can sort of engage a whole class.
The kids,
that's the other way too.
I've seen quite a number of books here. They have got all this like drawing and so on. If you to write the names and draw and color and all this stuff. But so far, all these things have been used in Gurumat camps and Punjabi schools, but not in the schools.
Not in
I
the
think
school.
schools has got their own.
But I mean, with all due respect to the schooling system here, they're quite understandable of multicultural faiths. Especially in high school here when they do religious education. There's a 100% focus on all religions, and they make sure they go through the basics of all religions and what they are. So if the children here choose to be racially abusive, it's just because they're being obnoxious or they're just being racist, point blank. But for yourselves in Australia, it's like when the people came to England here in the 1960s. So you're at the forefront of actually changing the world in Australia and their view of what you are to be if you're not white. Yeah? You know what this is what it is for you guys.
But the other points, I'll just clarify too. You have compulsory religious education classes. We don't.
Right.
So that's the other challenge for us. So if the school chooses to, particularly the Christian or Catholic schools, they will engage in interfaith sort of classes or have school trips. But otherwise, if you have gone through a state school, government funded school, it's not
on the curriculum.
It's not compulsory. So you unless you have your own interest or curiosity, you don't learn.
Do they have a religious education or no?
Usually very Christian based.
Okay.
So that's another area that we want to focus on, is actually really build that interfaith dialogue, but also more awareness around, okay, who are the Sikhs? What do the Sikhs do? What is our Sikh identity? So a lot of our information and resources and flyers, particularly when we have stalls in festivals, is around that stuff, similar to what Basics of Sikhi is doing as well. So it's a little bit, so the role of Sikh Helpline is not only in that, it's also around community education and awareness.
Perfect. Janji, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think it's a brilliant idea what she's saying. Bring it in school so that once the awareness is given to the other communities, they'll understand who are Sikhs. Like here, I know it's quite. There's a lot of differences.
They're major.
Because here, every school itself already understand who are Sikhs. In fact, this morning I got a call from a college. A young boy went to college with a kirpan.
Right.
And the school actually called the helpline, He said, I know it's part of, they use the word karpan, they never even say a knife.
No.
He said, I know it's a religious thing, and I know that you're allowed. Is there any sort of health and safety kind of system you have where we can use, So I told them I'll send them all the documents. You see, they understood what is the Kakari is all about.
But that's with awareness and campaigning.
Awareness and campaign, yeah.
No,
Yeah, we're not there yet.
But see, this is,
You'll be there in
hopefully
long
you
time.
will be, because all the good work you and your team are doing across both states, or 3 states, let's say, it will eventually it will get there. I mean, in regards to your setup, I know Gyaniji said that you spoke to Joshanpreet, was it?
Yeah.
And you gave him your policies, your procedures, your marketing and everything. I mean, are you going to be liaising with Gyaniji on a regular basis, or is this it now? You're branching off on your own, or what's the next steps?
The thing is, in the beginning when I spoke to Jatinder, what I told him is, we'll support you all the way.
Yeah.
But they'll be running it independently from UK,
Australia.
From UK.
Oh, from UK. Okay.
Yeah. And just at this moment, there's a group of people in Singapore. Actually, going to start another Sikh Helpline there.
Wow.
So they already had their meetings, first 2 meetings. So I'm going to provide them with all the information, whatever they need.
But they'll be running it
independently.
Just like yourselves.
Yeah.
So in Australia, it's a registered charity.
Perfect.
So we've got tax deductible status as well. We have a board, a strategic plan, we have governance, we have checks and balances in place. We're very committed to making it sure that we are compliant with the Australian laws and regulation, but also we are providing a professional service. So this year now, in 2017, our focus is going to be on those volunteers who take the course, getting them through mental health first aid training, getting them enrolled into any type of counselling courses. We are actively trying to recruit students who are actually studying psychology or social work or various professional roles, so that while they're studying at university, they can do an internship with us.
Almost like a work experience, isn't it?
Definitely. So me being a social worker, we can possibly then have a social work student on placement. But we don't have a building, so we're all remote yet.
Okay. How many volunteers do you have?
We probably have about 20 based more, and probably about 10 in Victoria, in Melbourne. In Brisbane, I'm probably the main person there.
Right.
But my role's been really about helping the team to get to that level.
And just grow it.
And grow it. And organically. But we don't want to grow too quickly, where we are struggling to meet the calls.
Yeah.
We make sure that our calls are attended to within 24 to 72 hours.
Okay.
Wherever there's an urgent call or a need, we will respond. So we use Facebook, we have a phone, we have emails, so we have various mediums.
Well, Benji, thank you for coming onto the show today. It's been amazing having you. Thank you for sharing your views.
It's great having y'all.
Exactly. Is there anything you want to say finally before we say goodbye, or is there any final thoughts?
It's great to have this opportunity, and I'm sure we will continue the dialogue furthermore. And maybe you guys should come and visit us in Australia.
Maybe we should. I'll ask Yanni. We'll take our cameras and we'll come
to Malaysia. Just another flight over.
Obviously, he goes on his own. He don't take me. But Gyaniji, anything you'd like to say?
No. Well, I'm very happy and glad that Australia is running a Sikh Helpline and supporting and helping the community. I think that is very, very important. That's the reason we started the helpline here, because there's a lot of organization helping in many different ways. Yeah. But emotionally supporting someone, I think, when there's a lady I remember where she was 21 years old, 21 years domestic victim. And she was crying in the Gurdwara, and then when she contacted the helpline, we helped her, we support her, we got her out of the structure where she's suffering. And she came in, she was thanking the helpline. That kind of satisfaction you get, you cannot even express it.
It's an unconditional form of reward, isn't it? You think you've done something right. But no, thank you for your time today. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you to you guys for watching. It's not possible without you guys and your donations and your continuous support. And again, to the people who are suffering, I will say this as we say on every show, don't suffer in silence. Call the Sikh Helpline. If there's any issues, the numbers are right here going across the bottom of the screen. Our website's there, www.sikhhelpline.com. If you're in Australia, get in contact with the Australian Sikh Helpline. That's Sikh Helpline Australia. And just don't suffer in silence. And I think that's the only thing I could say to yourselves. So from myself, Gyanji Penji, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.